Breaking news. What we are about to reveal could change global trade forever. The European Union has just made a move that Washington never saw coming, one that could shake the very foundation of US-EU relations and push America further into global isolation. Since returning to the White House, President Donald Trump has been on a mission to rewrite the rules of global trade. He has called out the European Union, accusing them of taking advantage of America, and now he is delivering on his biggest trade threat yet. But here is the real question. Is this a bold power move, or could this backfire spectacularly? Key breakdown. Trump claims the EU has been unfairly benefiting from US trade deals for decades. He insists that massive tariffs are the only way to fix this economic imbalance. But European leaders are not backing down. Instead, they are preparing for an unprecedented counterstrike. But what happens when one of America's closest allies suddenly turns against Washington? The European Union is no longer playing defense. It is about to go on the attack. And what they are planning will send shockwaves through global markets. But here is where things get even more explosive. Because what the EU just did was not just about trade. This is about global power. And the consequences could be far worse than anyone expected. The European Union did not waste time. Within hours of President Donald Trump's announcement, European leaders convened an emergency meeting, signaling the start of an unprecedented trade battle, one that could send shockwaves through global markets. The European Union has just launched a counteroffensive that Washington never saw coming. While Trump believed his tariffs would pressure the EU into submission, Brussels has just turned the tables, imposing a 25% tariff on key US industries, automobiles, agricultural products, and technology exports. This is not just a diplomatic dispute. This is a full-scale economic retaliation. The EU's strategy is clear: make America feel the pain. But here's the real question. Who will blink first? US businesses are already feeling the heat. From Midwest soybean farms to Silicon Valley tech firms, the economic shockwaves are spreading fast. The stakes have never been higher, and what happens next? That is where things get even more dangerous, because this trade war is about to take a turn that no one saw coming. Stay with us, because the next move could change global trade forever. Washington is in crisis mode, with the European Union's massive counterattack sending shockwaves through the US economy. President Donald Trump is now facing one of the biggest trade challenges of his presidency. The question is, will his next move fix the damage, or will it push America into an even deeper economic war? Moments ago, President Donald Trump announced an emergency response, vowing that the United States will not be taken advantage of any longer. But what he just unveiled is far more aggressive than anyone expected. This is not a negotiation anymore. This is full-scale economic warfare. In an unprecedented move, the US has just escalated the conflict with the biggest tariff hike on European goods in history. But will this hardline strategy save American jobs or destroy them? For major US industries, the stakes have never been higher. Automakers like Tesla and Ford, tech giants like Apple, and even American farmers are bracing for impact. Some experts warn that these tariffs could cripple domestic industries rather than protect them. The retaliation from Europe is already underway. With the EU doubling down on its own counter-tariffs, American businesses are now trapped in a vicious cycle of economic warfare. The big question remains, who will break first? But here is where things take a shocking turn, because this battle is no longer just about trade. It is about the future of the global economy, and what happens next could change everything. Europe is not backing down. Just hours after President Donald Trump's historic tariff escalation, the European Union has launched its own economic counteroffensive, and this time, it is bigger than anyone expected. In a stunning move, the European Union has just slapped 35% tariffs on key American exports, including automobiles, agricultural products, and high-tech industries. This is not just a response, it is a direct challenge to US economic dominance. Washington may have expected retaliation, but not at this scale. From Germany to France to Italy, European leaders are calling this a defining moment for global trade. One where the US may have finally overplayed its hand. The EU is not just fighting back, it is replacing the US-European companies, are forging new trade alliances, redirecting supply chains, and cutting American businesses out of the equation. Some experts warn that the US could lose billions in this battle. With European companies finding alternative markets, American industries are at risk of being permanently sidelined. The question now is, who will blink first? But here is where things get even more dangerous. This is no longer just a trade war. What happens next could shatter the entire transatlantic alliance, because what is happening behind closed doors could change global power forever. The European Union is about to take a step that no one saw coming. Stay with us, because this next move could break America's economic stronghold for good. The pressure is mounting, with the European Union delivering its strongest economic retaliation yet. Washington is scrambling for solutions. But behind the scenes, the US is facing a challenge far greater than just tariffs. It is a fight for economic survival. The fallout has begun. Markets are in freefall. Major American industries, from automobiles to agriculture, are losing billions overnight. And as the global economy reacts, the question is no longer if America can win this trade war, but if it can even survive it. For decades, the US economy thrived on being the center of global trade. But now, the tides are shifting. With Europe securing new deals with Mexico, South America, and China, Washington's leverage is crumbling, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Some of America's biggest companies are already feeling the heat. Automakers are slashing jobs. Farmers are seeing their exports blocked. And as American businesses scramble to find alternatives, it is clear this trade war is not just hurting Washington, it is hurting everyday Americans. Economic experts are now warning that this crisis could escalate into a full-blown recession. If Washington cannot regain control of this situation, the damage could be irreversible. But here is the real problem. The US does not have many options left. While Washington struggles to find a way out, other global powers are wasting no time. The European Union and China are already strengthening their economic ties. This means the US could be permanently pushed to the sidelines. But here is where things take a shocking turn, because Washington might be planning its most aggressive counterattack yet. The next move is not just about tariffs, it is about global power. And what happens next could rewrite history. Stay tuned, because this trade war is about to reach its most dangerous phase yet. The pressure has reached its breaking point. The United States is running out of time and options. But instead of retreating, Washington is preparing its boldest counterstrike yet. And if this plan moves forward, the entire global economy could be thrown into chaos. Sources inside Washington confirm that the US government is working on a massive economic retaliation plan. While exact details remain classified, experts believe this counterstrike could include sweeping new tariffs, financial sanctions, and even restrictions on European companies operating in the US. What is at stake? Hundreds of billions of dollars. In trade, millions of jobs, and the fragile balance of global markets. Washington is fully aware that this move could have devastating consequences. But with American industries facing collapse, officials believe there is no other choice. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 biggest concern? This is no longer just about trade, it is about economic warfare. European leaders are already bracing for impact, and Washington's next move could permanently sever economic ties with some of its oldest allies. Some believe this is Washington's last-ditch effort to maintain dominance. But others warn it could backfire, isolating the US further and triggering a long-term economic downturn. The world is watching and waiting for the moment Washington makes its final move. Because here is the real twist. While Washington prepares its counterattack, some of its closest allies may be planning an escape route. If Europe, Canada, and other global powers forge their own economic coalition, the US could find itself on the outside looking in. And the next move? It could change the global economy forever. The battle lines are drawn, the decisions made. In the next few weeks will determine the fate of the United States, the European Union, and the entire world economy. Stay tuned, because what happens next is bigger than anyone ever imagined. This is it, the moment that will define the future of global trade. Washington has played its hand, Europe and Canada have made their move, and the world is now standing on the edge of an economic war unlike anything we have ever seen. For decades, the United States has held its position as the world's dominant economic power. But today, that status is under its greatest threat. America's closest allies have turned against it. New trade alliances are forming. And Washington's response? It might change everything. The retaliation has already begun. Tariffs, trade, restrictions, economic sanctions. This is no longer a simple dispute. This is economic warfare. And the longer this battle continues, the more dangerous the consequences become. American businesses are bracing for impact. Some industries could collapse overnight. Consumers are already feeling the effects: rising prices, job losses, and an uncertain financial future. And now the biggest question remains: what happens next? There are only two possible outcomes: A, new world order in global trade, or a catastrophic collapse that sends economies spiraling out of control. Some say the US will emerge stronger, forcing its way back to dominance. Others warn that Washington has overplayed its hand and that it could be the beginning of an irreversible decline. The reality is this: the world will never be the same again. No matter how this ends, the balance of power in global trade is shifting. This is a defining moment, a moment that will shape the future of every economy, every business, and every household on the planet. And the most shocking part? This is just the beginning. The next few weeks will determine everything. The question is not if global trade will change. It is how much damage will be done before the dust settles. Stay with us, because what happens next is bigger than anyone could have imagined.